chapter 14 and verse 1 is where we'll start. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel that they turn and encamp before Pharaoh that between Megog the sea and over Belzov, before ye shall encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh shall say of the children of Israel, They are entangled in the land, and the wilderness has shut them in. And I'll harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will follow after them. And I'll be honoured upon Pharaoh and upon all the hosts, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? And he made ready his chariot and took people with him. And they took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, and the captains every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with a high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and the chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea, beside, here we go, I knew I'd get to it, Pipharoth, before Belzephon. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. And they were sore afraid, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, thou hast taken us away to die in the wilderness. Wherefore hast thou dealt with us to carry us forth out of Egypt? I'm just checking where we're going up to. In verse 12. Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. Let's turn to Isaiah 38. Sort of setting a bit of a scene here. Isaiah 38 and verse 1. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, came unto him and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Set thy house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. Now we've got a couple more of these scriptures, but I'm starting to paint a pretty pleasant picture at this time, aren't I? So far what we've got is God's chosen people. We have the nation Israel. They said to Moses, Look, we're sorted. It's a little bit uncomfortable here, but we'll be right. And Moses said, No, the Lord's going to deliver for us. And the next thing they know, they're in a corner. They've got the sea in front of them, the chariots behind them, and going, We told you so. Now here in Isaiah, we've got Hezekiah, sick unto death, in a pretty difficult situation, not really feeling too well. And to top things off, because he knew in the natural he wasn't feeling well, but the prophet then comes and says, Set your house in order, for you're going to die. So probably not the news you want. It's not really something that when you're feeling a bit under the weather, you want someone to come and say, Well, look, you better get your will sorted because you've got a couple of days. This is what happened with Hezekiah, and it wasn't a doctor or someone from the natural medical fraternity saying these things. It was a prophet of the Lord. It was the word of God through that point. Mark chapter 5. Better get to the right one myself. Okay, Mark chapter 5 and verse 21. And when Jesus passed over by the ship unto the other side, much people gathered unto him, and he was nigh unto the sea. And behold, there came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet, and besought him greatly, saying, I'm doing well. We'll start that again. And besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee come and lay hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. And we'll go down to verse 35, because we know it sort of cuts out to another miracle there. But in verse 35, but while he yet spoke, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, Thy daughter is dead, why troublest thou the master any further? So far we've seen a nation in trouble, we've seen a king in trouble, and now we see a family in trouble where this man had come out and said, well, look, my daughter's at the edge of death. And while they were walking to his house, gets the news, well, don't bother going any further, she's already died. 2 Kings chapter 4. Don't worry, we end in a happy place, all right? We're just setting the scene. 2 Kings chapter 4. Okay, in verse 1, Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the son of the prophets of Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear God, and the creditor is come to take him, my 2 sons, to be bondmen. So what we've seen is 4 scriptures so far. One is where there's God's chosen people, a chosen nation that were up against the wall, between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. We've seen that here there was a king, God's chosen king, that was pretty down and out, and then the prophet comes to tell him, well, look, get your things in order. We've seen here a family man that his daughter was dying, and then got the news that that she had died. And here, the last scripture that we've just read, is a lady here whose husband had just died. He was with Elisha there, the prophet, and had a few debts. The Visa card was running up a bit, and the creditors were coming to come and take her kids. Let's turn back to Exodus chapter 14. So we've pretty much covered the whole spectrum. We've covered from a nation down to an individual credit card debt. Okay, this is pretty much what we're talking about. This is the whole spectrum, and let's see how the Lord can work in these situations, and which ones he did and which ones he didn't. I'll give you a hint, there weren't any that he didn't. Exodus 14 and verse 13. Okay, and Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you this day. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Now that they were up against something that they could not see any natural way out. That the situation that they were in, they were saying, we would rather be servants being whipped, living a life of oppression, than you bringing us out here. They could not see above. They were only looking at the natural circumstance of their life. And here we see in verse 13 what Moses said. He said, Fear not, and stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. You don't need to go out and try and do this, do that, and do the other thing. You trust on the Lord. You trust on his word, and you're going to see the Lord work in your life. This is what Moses was talking about. And he will show unto you this day, for the Egyptians whom you have seen this day, you're not going to see them anymore, for the Lord will fight for you. We don't have to fight in our own strength. We have the Lord. We don't have problems. We have a solution, and that is the Lord. He's taken us out of this world. He's brought us into his marvellous light, and that is where we reside. It's not just part of the time. It is continually in our life. Let's go to Isaiah 38. I could have told you to keep your finger in all those scriptures, but you would have started running out of fingers. And it's good practice. Okay, Isaiah 38, we'll continue in verse 2. Then Hezekiah turned his face towards the wall and prayed unto the Lord, and said, Remember now, O Lord, I beseech thee, how I've walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which was good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. Then came the word of the Lord to Isaiah, saying, Go, and say to Hezekiah, Thus saith the Lord, the God of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will add unto thy days 15 years. And I'll deliver thee and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I'll defend this city. That this is the word of the Lord came unto, where was it? I've even lost. Where was it? Where were we? Isaiah there, sorry. Yeah, that's why we're in Isaiah. Okay. Before he even got out the court gates, the Lord had said, no, go back in there and tell him that I've healed him. Go and tell him that I've added 15 years to his life and that I'm going to deliver him from the captivity or from the battle that's before. The Lord works in kings' lives. Even though Hezekiah here, he was not only under the weather, he was not only sore unto death. When he looked to the Lord, when the prophet came, he was told, well, this is it. You've had a pretty good run. You'll be right. Get things in order. And his response was not to say, well, look, so be it. His response, it says here, he turned and faced the wall and prayed unto the Lord and said, Remember, I beseech thee, how I've walked before thee with truth and a perfect heart. I've done that which is good in thy sight. He didn't just say, well, all right, Lord, there's nothing more I can do. He said, your word, is that when we look through the Old Testament, that the covenant that the Lord made, that if you do what's right in my sight, I'll add days unto your lives, and I'll make sure that your silos or barns are full, and all of these sorts of things. This is what was in Hezekiah's mind. It was, these were your promises, Lord. Where are they? And we see what happened. The Lord said, here are my promises. I'm just adding 15 years to your life. And I've already won the battle for you. You haven't even gone out to it yet. The battle has already been won. Mark chapter 5. Okay, Mark chapter 5 and verse 36. As soon as Jesus had heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the ruler of the synagogue, Be not afraid, only believe. And he suffered no man to follow him save Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and seeth the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he came in, he said unto them, Why make you this ado, and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. They laughed him to scorn, but when he had put them all out, he taketh the father and the mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entered where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand, and said unto her, Talitha cumi, which is being interpreted, Damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was of the age 12 years, and they were astonished with a great astonishment.